Hey, this is John from Alloy 211. Today's video is on the Romanian AES-10, not to be confused with the Romanian AES-10B, which is a slightly different rifle than this and came after this. There is no AES-10A, just AES-10. Anyway, back to the rifle at hand, the AES-10. This is a Romanian AK variant, brought into the country, from what I could tell, around 2006. I purchased mine, this one, around 2008 because I didn't have an AK variant of any sort and I wanted one, and I thought that was a good time to get one. I believe it was around $600, $650 at the time, and I thought, you know, it's pretty cool. It's a long barreled AK. It looks a lot like an RPK at the time, and I saw it at a knife show, so I didn't really check over too quickly. I knew that it had a pencil barrel, which was not the same as an RPK, and the bipod was in the wrong spot. I didn't notice that the receiver was an AK receiver opposed to an RPK style receiver, which the AES-10B is more along the lines of an RPK style receiver, and it's got the heavy barrel, the correct location of the bipod. Now this does have the carry handle of the later Romanian RPK, and I believe this is a Romanian RPK back sight because it's not a notched or cut AK sight. Actually, I'll go ahead and bring the camera down here a bit. That'll probably help us out a little. It'll help me out a little. I don't know about you. Hopefully you. Anyway, we look, you can see, well, maybe we can't see. Do this. There we go. As you can see, the back sight is actually a cast piece like that, or made piece of that nature. It's not been cut out from an AK style back sight to make room for the carry handle. So I think that that probably is an RPK back sight. And I mean, it may not be. These guns were kind of what you call Franken guns. They were kind of just put together from parts that they had and different receivers, and I kind of wonder if maybe they put this together before they did the truer RPK clone, because they had more of these receivers available. And I'm kind of wondering if this may have been an RPK barrel originally. The bipod just has a spring clip here. You open it. Try to do this on camera. Oh, there we go, kind of. Open it, kind of squeeze it to rotate it into position. There we go. Oh, and it has, we'll get into this, and this is actually part of the reason why I had to look into what kind of rifle this was. One, I was interested, but there's a story behind the flash hider on the end of that. And that is the flash hider that came on the rifle, which obviously is not anything you'd see on a standard RPK style rifle. Anyway, back to the barrel. The barrel has been turned down, and it's very rough. I mean, you kind of expect, I don't know if you can hear that or not, but it's really roughly turned down. You kind of expect that on some of these Romanian rifles, like a Wasser 10. It also has the, before I forget, because I almost forgot when I was kind of going over it before, it does have the rail, scope rail mount here on the side, so that is handy. While we're looking at the side of it here, we have the markings. Get the light in the right spot. There we go. The AES-10, caliber 7.62 by 39. So, then you have the importation marks here, and made in Romania. Whoop. I don't have to bang that against there too much. But like I said, this has been roughly turned down. If you look towards the back part of the barrel here, that's not been turned down, and it does seem to be heavier. And I don't know, that's speculation. It's a chrome lined barrel. It's speculation that this is a turned down barrel. I don't know. I couldn't really find a lot on the rifles other than they're possibly imported around 2006. And the reason why the muzzle brake, or flash suppressor, I guess I should say, it's not a muzzle brake, but the flash suppressor played an important part and me having to look up this rifle is because one of my friends was shooting it and it shot off into the woods. And after I looked and looked, I really realized that the undergrowth of the woods is far more daunting than what you would think. Even with such a large piece of metal out there somewhere, the undergrowth pretty much just swallowed it up. So, over the subsequent years, I looked and looked to try to find a muzzle device that would fit these threads, and I could not find one. Now granted, the threads were pretty gold, as this had been, shot off, but still nothing fit and nothing was the right pitch. So then I started just trying to find out more about the rifle itself, and I couldn't really find a whole lot about it. Every time I would look it up, I would just be directed to AES-10Bs, which didn't have this, and it was those actually use like your standard muzzle brakes. This does not. I don't know what it uses. Luckily, and this is where I got lucky, I think about 2 years ago, I was down where I normally shoot, and I just happened to see this lying in the dirt. So I brought it home, cleaned it up, and it did thread on. You can see it's a nice bell shape there, and it does have 2 ports on the top. Anyway, I cleaned it up, checked the threads, and it would thread on, but there's no way it was going to stay on. So I had a set screw put into it, and that's Loctited it into place. I fired a few hundred rounds through it. It seemed to stay in place. We'll see if it stays in place. Now there are a couple other things I wanted to talk about with this rifle, and one of them was that it had horrible trigger slap when I first bought it. You could shoot maybe 45 rounds through it before your finger was so numb you couldn't fire anymore. And so that became a big problem. So I bought a Tapco G2 trigger, which is a great trigger. I really like it. It's a pretty cheap trigger, and for the money, I don't think I've ever had a trigger I liked better that was such a low price. And it's easy to install, and that got rid of my trigger slap. But then I had another problem develop, and I thought it was a magazine problem at first, where the bolt would come back to about here, and then it would get stuck right about here. But it mainly did it on one magazine, so I thought it was a magazine problem. So I pulled that magazine out of the magazines I used. But then I noticed it would happen no matter what magazine I used. So, I'd opened it up before, obviously, and cleaned it up. But I decided to look at the receiver rails, and I'd noticed that the receiver rails were back here. You can kind of see it here. A little. Still a little wavy, but they were slightly bent in this area. So I straightened the receiver rails out very gently and then polished them out. And I noticed that that did help. I didn't really have that problem as much, but I still had the problem. So I looked and looked some more at some places that were wearing, and I noticed when the hammer was caught in rebound like that, the bolt would slide easily past it, but when it was up, just held by the sear, it would get caught right here. And you can't really see what I'm doing. I'll move back. There we go. It would get caught right here. But when it's being held down further, zoom in a little bit there. There we go. When it's being held down like that, it would slide past it easily. But when it was just up, being held by the sear, it would get caught. And so, pull the bolt out, which, as you can see, the light over here, as you can see, it's got a lot of rough, pull that up, it's got a lot of rough machining marks, what you'd expect typically of a Romanian AK style rifle. But what I noticed was right here in this transition, the transition was really horrible, and it had a burr and it wasn't smooth at all. And I also noticed down here, whoa, a little too far. I noticed down here on the face of the hammer, it also actually had a bit of a casting line and wasn't smooth and had a really poor transition there. So I polished this all out. I polished this area on the bolt out and here, took all the machine marks out, can't really see. You can see it a little bit. There's still a little faint trace of some of the machine marks that were there. But now it's a lot smoother. It seems to function a lot better. Kind of the same as with the muzzle brake. It's only had a few hundred rounds fired through it since that, but I haven't experienced any more problems with it. Now, in a lot of ways, I was disappointed with this rifle because of that, because of all the issues between not wanting to function correctly, between the trigger slap, between the flash suppressor flying off, you know, just a lot of different little things really annoyed me with this rifle. But in the same stroke, because of all those little problems, I became intimately familiar with the AKM operating system, or at least a lot more familiar with it. And I don't want to say I became anywhere near an expert, but I became a lot better at identifying what makes an RPK opposed to an AK, and what makes an RPK clone closer, semi-automatic RPK clone closer to an actual RPK than, say, something like this, where it's got an AK receiver and is pretty much just a AK trying to be an RPK. It is not an RPK, but it's a long-barreled AK. And do I regret buying it? No, because I haven't felt the need to buy any other AK style rifles, so I have this, and that's good enough. I can shoot the ammunition I want. So far, again, it's been doing a lot better. It seems to be functioning correctly. And the one thing about it is it was always very accurate. It has never had any problem in the accuracy department. It, you know, is accurate at 100 yards, it's accurate to around 200 yards. I haven't really shot it much past there, but you know, it's not an inaccurate firearm. It just has a lot of reliability issues that hopefully I've teased out. And really, once you take this bipod off, it shoulders remarkably well for a rifle with such a long barrel. So you can actually, with the bipod off, shoot it from the shoulder, and it's not much of a pain. And when I first purchased the rifle, I was thinking about putting a side folding stock on it. But the more and more I shot it with the bipod, I really like the clubfoot stock, and the clubfoot stock is really ideal for shooting this with the bipod. Oh, one other complaint, which is, I know people will be like, why are you complaining about a cheap RPK knockoff AK? I'm not really complaining about it. I really do like the rifle in a lot of ways, but just something else was the top handle, or the top handguard cracked right here. And I've glued it back together. It seems to be holding, but I'm sure it will crack again. I really just need to get a new one, and I will probably do that. But yeah, this cracked maybe 200 rounds into shooting this the first time I shot it. Maybe, something like that. Other than that, it's been pain in the butt, and I really, really have enjoyed it. And I've enjoyed learning what I could from it. Maybe a little bit wider shot on it. So yeah, even though it has been a pain, it's taught me a lot about the rifle itself, and just kind of a little bit about the Romanian AK variants that were coming into the country around that time. Now, would I say that this was a good buy at $600, $650? Probably not. I mean, it probably would have been better around $500, but now it runs well, and I haven't had problems with it. I don't feel that I paid too much for it. I just had put a lot of work into it. So anyway, if you enjoyed the video, or you learned something about this rifle that you didn't know about, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you've watched some of my other videos and you like those, I'd appreciate if you subscribe. Thanks. Have a good day.